Chatri Sityodtong is acting like a delusional crazy man after his recent comments about his current champion Jonathan Dabella that were completely discrediting and very disrespectful. Now, beyond kickboxing, translated interview that Chatri did with a bunch of Thai media, and in it he said, and I quote, he doesn't want to defend his title. He wants to book we want to book a rematch with Zhang Pimen, but he knows that after 4 rounds he lost easily. In the 5th round, he fluked and head kicked Zhang. We might strip him. Absolutely absurd. I don't know what Chatri was on before this. Maybe he was on some speed or some crap, because this does not make any sense at all. First of all, in the context of what the fight was, that is just incorrect, because the fight was very close and competitive. Yes, going into the 5th round, Zhang was probably up 3-1 maybe, but to insinuate that the knockdown was the sole reason why he won that fight and that it was just a fluke is just ridiculous, because Dabella had been setting up that head kick right from the get-go, was looking for the right timing, and bang, he got it in the 5th round. It was by no means a fluke. And even if that head kick got him the knockdown, that wouldn't alone have won him the fight. Because just as you saw in the Ariane Sadikovic versus Rehian Ursel fight, Sadikovic landed that knockdown, but it didn't win him the fight because he would have needed to win 1 additional round. But Ursel won every other round, so he won that fight. Dabella did enough to win the 3rd round and the 5th round with that knockdown, and that netted him the fight. So Chatri is just like on crack or something when he's talking about Zhang Pimen dominated Dabella. It was a close competitive fight. Dabella won at least one of the other rounds, and he definitely didn't fluke his way to that knockdown. It was graciously deserved by him. But even moving past the context of that fight, this is such a disrespectful thing for the chairman to say about his own champion. Dabella is one of the most talented kickboxers in the modern day, pound for pound, and the CEO is just tearing him to shreds, talking about how his victory wasn't that impressive and how he's scared to fight a man that he already beat. Very odd behavior from Chatri. Dabella's own story is that he got offered a fight in June, and then the fight got delayed, and now that's why he's taking a fight in boxing. And quite frankly, after the whole Anissa Meksen mess, I'm going to take the sides of the fighters over one, because one is just a circus when it comes to stuff like this. One has a very unhealthy tendency to basically just protect the fighters that they want to push, and they knew that Zhang Pimen was going to be a star man. He was Chinese. He was 18, 19 years old when he contested for that title, and it would have looked great on all those social media platforms if they had a 3rd straight Chinese champion who was a teenager. And when Dabella deprived him of that, that put them in the bad graces with the boss. And you can just look at other examples of them either protecting stars or punishing them for beating supposed future stars. I mean, look at Anissa Meksen. They deprived her of a championship fight for 2 years because they didn't want to lose Janet Todd, who happened to be half Japanese. And they knew very well that Anissa would have ran through her. I mean, Anissa won every single round, dominated her fights, and they kept the belt away from her because they didn't want an African champion. They didn't want someone who would deprive them of their Asian audience. Going even further from that, you got Elias Yanahashi. He beat Superlek, another African guy from African descent. And guess what they did with him? They put him on the shelf for 2 years because they beat this upcoming Thai star that was going to be another Rotang, you know? And then you can even go into Jared Brooks, an American star. He took away one's last Filipino world champion. We haven't seen him for 6 months. It's the most absurd thing in the world where these guys, very talented men and women, who are being deprived of fights, getting slandered all over the place because they are winning contests. You can even go into their own audience or their own Asian audience there and talking about like what's going on with Sidichai. When Sidichai beat Muhammad Butasa, Chatri deliberately left his name out of how awesome the featherweight division was. Chatri was doing an interview with SCMP, and he was talking about how Giorgio Petrosian, Marat Grigorian, Superbone, all these guys are all so awesome, and he deliberately left out Sidichai. Then all credit to Nit Atkin because he brought up how Sidichai wasn't mentioned. And then Chatri tore him to shreds because he looked slow against Muhammad Butasa, which I don't even know if it was Chatri watching that fight, because it was a phenomenal outing by Sidichai. It was one of the best kickboxing fights of the entire year, very underrated fight, back and forth. Sidichai was able to endure the earlier rounds of struggle and then come back and win that fight in the later rounds. Very strong performance from Sidichai, but Chatri just tore him to shreds for no reason at all. Chatri's got this weird beef with other fighters like Nongo Gyeonghedao, Pechanong, and I just don't understand it at all, man. Like, why are these promoters getting into all these just crazy, like, disrespectful moods towards their own fighters? Like, as fans, we just want to see them fight. Just have the best people in the world fighting each other. We don't want all this drama because it really just ruins everything. You're taking people and you're ruining their careers by putting them on the shelf and they're in their prime, and you're just manipulating the fan base, trying to turn them against like some of these fighters, and it's just too much. Like, why can't we just have these guys fight? We don't want to see another Rotang on our hands where we got this guy who's basically just fighting a bunch of cans because one wants to like keep their media cash cow darling on their hands. I want to see the best athletes in the world compete against each other. But when one has this favoritism towards fighters of certain regions and punishing people for winning fights, it really does destroy a lot of the competitiveness and the respect that one tries so hard to endure to us. I mean, because there is nothing respectful about disowning your own and disrespecting your own champions. And Chatri is just being a massive hypocrite if he thinks that doing this to his own champions is okay. I feel bad for Jonathan DeBella, man. I hope that everything can be worked out between him and the promotion. He's a very talented guy, very young for the promotion, very young for the fight scene. I hope that we can see more of him and he can have a very dominant reign with the champion, but I'm not sure. It looks very odd. It looks like they might strip him of the title, which would be an extreme unfortune. Or else we're going to be stuck in a very unenviable position of Zhang Peiman being the champion, even though he already lost to this guy. So, yeah, it's just upsetting to see. I hope that things can be worked out between the both parties. Guys, that was just my thoughts about what's going on with Jonathan DeBella and just a lot of the unfair prejudice that's been going on throughout One Championship throughout the past couple of years. If you found it moving, please leave a like, consider subscribing for more content, leave a comment about what your own opinion on the matter has been. This is Chatri Productions, and I'm out.